For dinner we had turkey and blazing pudding, and after dinner the uncles would sit back in their chairs, loosen up all buttons, put large moist hands over their watch chains, and slept. Mothers, aunts, sisters scuttled to and fro, bearing tureens. Auntie Bessie, who had already been frightened twice by a clockwork mouse, stood by the sideboard and had some elderberry wine, whimpering. The dog was sick. Auntie Bessie had to have 3 aspirins, but Auntie Hannah, who liked port, stood in the middle of the snowbound backyard singing like a big-bosomed thrush. I would blow up balloons to see how big they would blow up to, and when they all burst, which they all did, the uncles jumped and rumbled. In the lazy afternoons, the snow falling outside, I would sit among the festoons and Chinese lanterns and nibble on dates and try to make a model man-of-war out of the easy instructions for little engineers and manage to produce what might be mistaken for a seagoing tramcar. Or I would go out, my new boots squeaking into the white world, call on Jim and Dan and Jack and go padding through the still streets, making huge footprints in the hidden pavements. I bet somebody would think there had been hippos, I'd say. What would you do if you saw a hippo coming down our street, eh? Well, I'd go like this, Jack. Bang! I'd throw him over the rail, and then I'd tickle him under his arm, and I'd make him wag his tail. Yeah, what would you do if you saw 2 hippos, eh? Iron-flanked and clanking he-hippos roared past us as we passed Mr. Daniels' house. Let's post Mr. Daniels a snowball through his letterbox. Let's write things in the snow. Let's write, Mr. Daniel looks like a spaniel all over his lawn. Or we went walking along the white shore. You think the fish can see it's snowing, eh? Now we were snow-blind travellers, lost on the North Hills, and vast dewlap dogs flasked round their necks would come baying up to us, baying Excelsior. And I remember we went singing carols once, when there was not a shaving of a moon to light the flying streets. At the end of our road was a drive that led up to an old, dark house. We stumbled up the darkness of the drive that night, each one of us afraid. Each one of us holding a stone in his hand, in case, and each of us too brave to say a word. Wind through the trees made noises as of old, and unpleasant, and perhaps web-footed men wheezing in caves. We reached the black bulk of the house. What shall we give them then? Hark the herald? No, Jack said. Good King Wenceslas. I'll count 3. 1, 2, 3! Good King Wenceslas looked out on the feast of Stephen, and then an old, dry voice, the voice of someone who's not spoken in a long time, joined our singing. An old, dry voice on the other side of that door, an old, dry, cracked, eggshell voice through the keyhole. When snows round about, eve, crisp and eve. And when we stopped running, we were back at our house. The front room was lovely, the hot water bottle gulping gas, everything was good again and shone out over the town. Don't think it was a ghost, Jim said. Maybe it was trolls, said Dan, who was always reading. Come on, let's go see if there's any jelly left, said Jack. We did that. Always on Christmas night, there was music. An uncle played the fiddle, cousin sang Cherry of Ripe, another uncle sang Drake's Drum. It was very warm in the little house. Auntie Hannah, who had got onto the parsnip wine, sang a song about bleeding hearts and death. And she sang a song in which she said her heart was like a bird's nest. We all laughed again. Then I went to bed, looking out my window through the never-ending smoke-coloured snow. I could see all the other houses on our hill. I could hear music rising up from them, all through the long, steadily falling night. I turned the gas down. I got into bed. Said a few words to the close and holy darkness, and slept.